Hello friends, I have already tried to film this video, but it ended in me just screaming at the camera for an hour and a half because it brought up a lot of trauma that I forced myself to forget over the last couple of months. So I decided to refilm it because I did not want to portray my thoughts in such a poor way when I feel like my message is really important. So today I'm going to be telling you the story of how I ran for student body president, and more so on the aspect of how I was just treated so rudely and unfairly by the people that were supposed to be unbiased during this entire process. And it's just absolutely baffling to me, and I almost did not film this video, but I decided to film it because I wanted people to be aware of this if they were thinking of running. And also I just feel like I have been silent and threatened in so many different ways, and enough is enough. So I had never joined the Student Government Association. I had nothing to do with it. I did a lot of student government in high school, but sophomore year I was approached by someone that I admired a lot who was telling me that she was running to be student body president and asked me to be on her campaign. I thought it was a really exciting opportunity, and I believed in her and what she wanted to do for us, so I decided to be on her campaign team, and it was the most intense thing up until that point that I had ever been a part of. I remember getting moved around in positions because of some ridiculous rule changes that happened last minute. I remember just student leaders being so petty to each other, and it was just so intense and just ridiculous for college SGA, but it was super intense and I loved it. And she ultimately lost, but a position freed up in junior class officer, so I interviewed, I got the position, and I was junior class events coordinator. And I had no intention of ever running to be a part of executive council. So there's executive council for the entire school and then class officer for your class. So I always just wanted to do class stuff. What ultimately made me decide to run for student body president was the fact that I absolutely hated, despised, and was disgusted by the way the executive council was treating everybody in the Senate, especially class officers. They were extremely rude to us, talking down to us. They were just so rude for no reason, and they definitely thought that they were better than everyone else. I remember we had a lot of meetings between executive council and class officers about why our relationship was so bad, and I literally said it was because of the way that they spoke to us. The best way I can describe it is a bunch of mean kids in high school, like the popular bully group. Like, that's literally what they were. I could not believe that the top leaders of our school were just so horrible. So that's kind of why I decided to run, because I wanted to create actual positive change, and I wanted to make a good environment for people to come together and positively impact students, because it is only on a university level, but there are a lot of things, in my opinion, that need to be changed, and I cared enough to actually get that done. So that's ultimately why I decided to run. I had several meetings with people that were involved in the campaign process before. I tried to educate myself as best as possible so that I had the smoothest campaign journey. Everything in the fall semester pretty much went well. I had a couple of meetings, but everything really started to kick into gear second semester. So I remember, I think it was like the second week we got back from school in January, I got an email from the head of the election committee, and she told me that we had to have a meeting. And I did not like her. Like, I still don't like her. I've never liked her. She was the main person that was being so rude to us in Senate meetings, and she told me that we had to have a meeting. So I went to this meeting that was in a public building with glass walls, and it was not a meeting that was private. Somebody else on the executive council, it was the tech chair, who was just in there doing office hours, computer work, and I should have asked for it to be private, but I didn't know any better, I guess, and he just sat there and listened to it the entire time, even though he had no business being there. But it was the head of the election committee's fault. She held this meeting with just me and her, basically accusing me. She said she hadn't heard anything about me, but she had heard some other members of my team talking about the election. We weren't supposed to talk about it or let anyone know that we were running or who was on our team until campaigns officially started. And she was telling me that she heard people on my team talking about it. She also accused one of my friends who was a senior for going to a party on campus on a Saturday night and talking about my campaign. And during that meeting, she also told me who I was running against, which is a huge breach of confidentiality. Now, I had already known who I was running against and basically all the core members of her team as soon as I got back from break, because I had eyes and ears everywhere on campus. But she basically called a meeting based off of hearsay, which made everybody on my team really angry, and my friend who was a senior was really angry because she was literally in her dorm the entire weekend. But also, why would she go to a college party and talk about my campaign? Like, that is absolutely ridiculous. And then at this meeting, she also told me that she knew that some of my senior friends were helping me with my campaign, which was absolutely not true at all. And it was really bold of her to say, when I knew for a fact that her and the current student body president were helping my opponent with her team, which is totally against the rules. But it's whatever. I knew it was going to be unfair from the start, so I just kind of brushed it off. And like, when I say help, I mean there was a kid that both me and my opponent wanted, and he ended up going on her team. And I heard that he had a meeting with just the head of the election committee and the current student body president, basically telling him to be on her team, which is absolutely ridiculous and bogus. But whatever, I blew it off. It was a stupid meeting that should have never happened, and I believe it was just an attempt to scare me. But from then, I knew that confidentiality was going to be an issue. Now, I had thought that this election was not going to be as crazy as the one from previous years, because I actually liked the person that I was running against. She had told me several times that she wasn't going to run because she just wanted to enjoy her senior year. That ended up being a complete lie, but whatever. Like, I liked her. I thought it was gonna be fine. I don't believe that college politics should get in the way of friendships, relationships. I think that it's absolutely ridiculous and absurd. So I thought it was gonna be fine. It was all fun. So the head of the election committee texted all class officers before a Senate meeting one night and told us that we all needed to chat. Now, this was after I had already had a meeting with her, and during that meeting she basically yelled at all of us, saying that she doesn't know why she heard about 6 or 7 of us planning to be on campaign teams, and that it's absolutely ridiculous and nobody should be talking about the elections, and everybody should be focusing on this year instead of next year, basically just like screaming at us, and it was ridiculous. And then the student body president went on a rant. Like, she literally went on a rant, like steam coming out of her ears, about how she didn't care about who won the election and she didn't care about anything to do with next year, like all this stuff. It was just complete lies. Like, she was just like lying but then convincing herself to get angry about it. I don't even know. It was just so ridiculous. And then a bunch of members of EC who were on the opposing team were speaking out about how they had no idea what this was about, and they had no idea who was running, blah 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 blah. Like, the only people that spoke at that meeting were liars, and they were just trying to scare everyone, and it was absolutely ridiculous. And then the advisor of the club, who is a complete adult, was just kind of like, oh, like, it's not going to be as crazy as last year, it's ridiculous, like, let's all have fun with it, blah 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 blah. So basically it was a meeting to kind of yell at us and tell us all not to talk about it and to focus on our jobs now, which is what I would doing. Oh my god. All that meeting did was cause more drama and more speculation about who was running, and it was just not a smart idea. And again, it was so condescending and so rude how they talked to us, and that's why my respect for that EC is absolutely down the drain. Like, I don't respect a single one of them. So I tried to blow it off. I was just focusing on me and my campaign and getting people together on my team. But I remember just being so stressed out the month before the election. Like, everything just stressed me out so much, especially with them having all these unnecessary meetings and stuff. Like, they definitely like made me so on edge. I remember, like, there was one point where I was literally like crying in my room every single night, and I don't cry like at all. It just like broke me down, and every single thing that happened I took as like a personal attack, even though I shouldn't have, and I made some decisions that I really regretted, and I did and said some things that I can't take back that I really regret, and it's nobody's fault but my own. But it's just like the stress that I was under. I got my period 5 days early, which has not happened to me in like 6 years, so it was really bad. really bad. Campaigning started after spring break. So before spring break, I decided to have a meeting with the advisor of the club because I hadn't formally introduced myself yet. And so I decided to introduce myself because if I had won the election, then I would be working with her all the time. So I had a meeting. It ended up being like over an hour long, and we had only planned on talking for 20 minutes, and it was a good meeting. Like, she was describing the job, she was telling me how hard it was gonna be, all of this stuff. The only thing that I asked of her was to make sure that it was a fair election and to talk to the person that was student body president at that time to make sure that she stayed out of it. And the advisor told me to my face, word for word, that she was not allowed to endorse anyone and she was not allowed to get involved. And so I trusted her because she was an adult, and she assured me that she would talk to her and make sure that she stayed out of it, and she didn't really care because she was a senior anyway. So that meeting made me feel very secure about going in to the election after spring break because she was the advisor. She was going to oversee everything and make sure that things were fair. What I didn't know was that she was ultimately lying to me. Okay, so now we're about to get into the actual election and campaigning where everything just gets crazy. Before we do that, I want to explain to you the election committee and what it is. So basically, it's a student-led committee. It had the attorney general, the senior class president, and then some other student justice runs the entire election, and they make sure that everything is fair, and you have to send everything to them before you can post it. You have to send your website, your pictures, your Instagram captions, your Instagram story. Like, it's insane how controlling it is. You have to send everything to them to get approved, and they have 48 hours to respond to you. Now, this is supposed to be a completely unbiased committee. Every person in that committee was friends with the person that I ran against. The head of the election committee was literally best friends with her, still is, so it wasn't really unbiased at all. It was very biased from the start, and then seeing the way that they treated me throughout it, totally biased. So let me just start by saying that the whole committee was just biased to begin with, but I was okay with that because it doesn't matter what you want personally, it matters your actions and how you handle everything, and you have to handle everything fairly. So I sent all of my campaign materials and everything in there. They were being so like picky with everything. They made me change my wording with so many things. Oh my god, I remember I sent in this video that took so long to make for them to tell me I had to remake it because I had to take one word out of a sentence, and it was such a small word, and it was just like hassle upon hassle. And then when campaigning season happened and I saw my opponent's messages and her posts and all that stuff, she literally was allowed to say all the things that I was not allowed to say. So that is completely biased. It is ridiculous. I cannot believe it. But yeah, they were being super difficult to me. Like, there were so many times where I would email them things and then they would email me back and say, due to the volume of content, it's going to take more than 48 hours to approve, even though the rule is that they have to respond within 48 hours. But basically, the election committee, under the supervision of the SGA advisor, they are in charge of the entire election. So we come back from spring break, and the first thing we have to do is get 350 signatures so we are eligible to run. So I was going around getting my 350 signatures. My opponent was going around with the current student body president, who was literally campaigning for her and helping her get signatures. Meanwhile, my friends who were on that EC didn't even want to be like seen with me because they didn't want to sway the decision because they were trying to be professional. Meanwhile, the literal president of the university was going around with her, helping her get signatures. It makes absolutely no sense to me. I ended up getting my signatures, and at this point in time, I was already so paranoid, so I got 400 signatures instead of 350. I took pictures of everything because I was just convinced that the head of the committee was gonna like burn the papers and like lie and tell everybody that I didn't turn them in. I genuinely believed that that's something that she might do, so I took pictures of everything and then I handed in my signatures. The night before campaigning started at midnight, we had a meeting with the election committee and the advisor at 10 p.m. I don't know why it was so late. It's absolutely ridiculous. Like, I should have been in bed by then, but we had a meeting to go over all of the rules about campaigning and voting and all of that stuff. I remember in that meeting the head of the committee kept on pointing out people, like specifically by name, who were on my team and the positions that they held within the school, but they didn't mention anyone that was on the other person's team. So it was already like very skewed and felt very biased, but again, I just brushed it off and I said I'm just going to do my best on this campaign. So we had that meeting. It was just very, very weird. And then at midnight is when we were allowed to release everything. So I made the decision that I wasn't going to post anything. I was just going to make a Instagram story post instead of an actual post, so that engagement would be higher in the morning when I posted. Anyways, at midnight, she comes out, my opponent comes out with a video that was like 30 seconds long. I had already like known about this video before she posted it because, like I said, I had eyes and ears everywhere, but it was really flashy and had no content. It was basically her walking around campus, and I came out with a story post. It was crazy at midnight, the amount of people that were just like endorsing everybody so quickly. But what I remember from that was that the student body president endorsed my opponent for president. Like I said, they were best friends and she endorsed her. She already had all of her campaign graphics saved to her phone, was ready to go at midnight. Traditionally, you stay out of it if you are the student body president because you are the president for the people and not just a group of students, and she definitely broke that precedent by endorsing a candidate. Now, I was told by the advisor very explicitly and several times that she was not allowed to do that because it looks like the organization is endorsing someone. So I contacted her and I was like, what the heck? Why is she allowed to do this? Like, this should be a campaign violation. And she said, oh no, she's an individual person. And I was like, that's not what you told me in our meeting a week ago. So basically she had completely lied to me, and she was allowed to endorse her, which is absolutely ridiculous. In her Instagram bio, it literally said student body president, and then underneath it said vote for and then my opponent's name. It makes no sense. My sophomore year, the person that was student body president was best friends with one girl, and then she ran and ended up becoming the student body president, and then her best friend was now running against me. It's literally nepotism. It starts to be a trend where they kind of groom one person to be the next president. It was just kind of insane to see all the people that were already in those positions and had already known her like be so quick to endorse someone when they didn't even wait to know what I was about and my values and all of that stuff. Anyway, it was insane. But most of the people that were endorsing her were people who had already graduated and been part of the whole student government system. So I wasn't really worried about it. At that point, I was just annoyed that the advisor told me something and then ended up lying about it. So I had a freshman set to be my secretary, and typically the freshman vote is very, very important because they are the largest population at our school, and it's really important about them coming and showing up to vote. I remember a bunch of freshmen telling me that they were scared to endorse me because the student body president had endorsed the other candidate, and that made me really frustrated and really angry. But the culture should not be like that. You should not be afraid to express your opinion, and also it is literally a student government campaign. None of it actually matters in the grand scheme of things. So the fact that the freshmen were actually scared to tell everybody their opinions is ridiculous. So the person that was set to be the secretary on my team made a really bad decision during campaign week that ultimately ended up in him getting removed from my team. Now, I'm not going to talk about explicitly what that was, but what I am going to say is that the way that the conduct process works at my university is that you are innocent until proven guilty. So he had not had a conduct meeting yet before the election committee made the decision to pull him from my team. That should have never ever been allowed. He didn't have anything on his conduct record at that time because he had not had his meeting with conduct yet. So that's just another way that they were very, very unfair. They should have waited for him to have that conduct meeting, but because it was me, it just didn't matter, and they decided to remove him, which was a journey. I was so pissed in that moment. I was so angry. I was just angry at the situation. I was angry at him and everything that had happened. I really think that screwed me up in a big way because he was the freshman and I had to remove everything with him in it. And I remember I had this really good team photo and I couldn't post it anymore and I had to remove it because he was in it, and my social media people on my team had to work extra hard, and it was just a really big letdown for the entire team, and he was just stupid. But that was a huge thing that happened, but I just hope he learns from it. But again, it was just another thing to deal with. I brushed it off, even though he should have never been removed until after he had that meeting. Okay, during campaigning, everybody was out to get each other. Like, I feel like people on my team were out to find campaign violations, and people on her team were out to find campaign violations against me and my team. So every single time my phone rang and it was the election committee, my heart dropped and I just didn't want to answer. I got a phone call from the election committee and they said that they had received a recorded phone call of me that someone had anonymously sent in. So they couldn't tell me who sent it in, but they also couldn't tell me what it is that I said on that recording. And they sent it in as a campaign violation, but because it wasn't actual slander, it wasn't allowed to be a campaign violation. And I said, I don't remember talking badly about my opposing candidate at all. Like, I literally don't, because I want this to be a fair and as nice as a campaign as possible. So I asked them, I said, what did I say? I don't remember saying anything bad. And basically the content of that message was me just saying that I thought that I would make a better student body president, which is not slander at all. I remember them like warning me about slander, which is so ridiculous. Like, if you record someone and send it in to get someone in a college election, you are pathetic. But I started thinking, who could have sent in this voice recording that they tried to get me for slander, and it wasn't even slander because I never said anything that was slanderous. The only thing I could think of was my RA. Oh my gosh, this is where we take a tangent, because the only place that I would have felt comfortable enough to express my real opinions would be in the privacy of my own home. I lived in a sorority house and pretty much all those girls are like family, except for my RA. She was actually like the first person I told that I was running back in like September. I told her that I was thinking about running and she told me that she thought it was going to be a great idea. Like, I would literally go into her room and talk to her for hours, and she would pull up lists of people that she thought would be good on my team, and she really helped me a lot. And I remember a lot of girls in my house like did not like her, and I was always the first person to defend her. I regret that now. I see during campaigning week that she posted in favor of the girl that was running against me, and I was just so taken aback by that. Now, I do not have a problem with someone that wants to support someone else. It's a college campaign. Like, it doesn't matter. I was not upset about that. I was upset about the fact that we literally lived together. She is not only my RA, but she was the ARD of Greek. Like, she was in charge of everyone in the Greek community, and so she was supposed to be there for me as a literal student that was employed by the university. She was in my sorority. We literally lived together. It wasn't like a dorm. We lived in a house together, and also I thought we were friends. Like, she literally talked to me for hours, said nothing but good things. Like, I always felt so good after talking to her, and she didn't even have the courtesy or the courage to come up to me and tell me that she was going to support someone else. Like, it was just so I just couldn't believe it. She posted like 10 things for her, talking about how she voted for her, all of this stuff, and I to this day, like, I just don't know why she did that, and just couldn't even talk to me first, especially when we had so many conversations and she had literally helped me pick out people for my team. And I have not talked to her since that day. I have not defended her anymore when people have said that they didn't like her for things, and it's really easy for me to be like super angry about it, but I think that this particular situation was one of the things that hurt me the most throughout the entire process, because I really felt like I lost a friend, but also if she was going to do something like that, then she probably was never a friend in the first place. To this day, convinced that she sent in the voice recording, which meant that I was probably sitting on my couch having this conversation and her recording me. Like, that's really messed up. But also just like the actions that she took throughout the entire campaign, I just, like, for the longest time, every single time I looked at her, I wanted to like punch a wall. Like, I was so angry and just couldn't believe that she could do something like that. So it is the night before voting starts. Voting started on a midnight. It started on a Sunday at midnight, which meant that it was Saturday night and everybody was out at the fraternities. I decided to stay inside on my couch getting prepared for it because we had a long day, me and my team making sure that people voted the next day, so I wanted to be prepared. So I sat on my couch, and then none other but my RA decides, oh my god, are you ready for this? She decides to bring the person that I'm running against, along with her entire team, the current student body president along with the student body president from the previous year, to my house. Wearing all of their campaign materials, she decided to bring them all to my house. Again, didn't even have a conversation with me when she knew I was literally chilling on the couch. Oh my god, that's baffling. So she brings them all to our house, and I got so angry. Like like all the things that had happened before, I was already like so pissed at her, and she did that, and I literally could not. I was so angry at her, and I remember sitting on the couch with some of the girls that lived there, and they were all like so angry for me, and I just had to leave. So I changed my clothes and I decided, you know what, I'm gonna go next door for a little bit before midnight voting starts to just, you know, relax. So I go to the fraternity next door. They're having a party, whatever, super fun. Then I noticed around 11:40, when I was about to leave and get ready for voting, she had brought her entire team to the frat that I was in, and I was like, oh, this is awkward. But they were literally all wearing their campaign t-shirts. I was literally just wearing one button because it's so tacky to go into a place on a Saturday night full of drunk people wearing your campaign materials. Like, it's so tacky. So I noticed that she brought everyone to the frat, and I was like, that's kind of tacky, but also like kind of irresponsible that you're all at the frat. And then I noticed that they all had their NFT cards with them. So I did not get NFT cards, but they all had them. Basically what it is, it's like a magnet basically. So you scan the card to the back of your phone and the link for voting pops up. You can put any link onto it. It's actually a genius idea, and the use of those were allowed. So they all had them, so I just figured they were going to ask people to vote. But I wasn't worried about it because I had already contacted everybody that I needed to contact in the Greek community. So I went home and voting started. Everyone was like posting about voting, and I made a QR code, and then I get a text from one of my friends who was sober monitoring at a fraternity. He was actually on my team, and he was like, hey, like, maybe you should get out here because like everyone on her team is here like getting people to vote. So then I was like, you know what, I have a lot of energy, I'm gonna go out to the frat. So I hit the frat. I actually had some really good conversations that night. I remember having a conversation with a fraternity president, and he was super cool, and he sent the link to his frat, and I didn't really know him before then, but it was kind of cool. And then I went to the fraternity that my friend was at, who had texted me to come out, and the girl that I was running against, her VP was there, and I was like, okay. So I go in the patio and I start having a conversation with two of my friends that were in my sorority, and the girl that was like running against me, her VP, comes up to one of them, pretends like I'm not even there. I cannot believe, oh my god, it's so tacky. She literally comes up to them, she takes one of their phone, like literally not even kidding, grabs it from their hand. She's not even like, hey, like I'm running to be the vice president, like will you please vote for my candidate. She literally takes her phone, scans the card, and votes for her. Literally presses vote and then moves on, and she was doing it to everyone, and I was just like stunned. And I was completely sober, like I know what I saw, but I couldn't believe that I saw it. And so she was just taking people's phones, and it was, oh my god, ridiculous. And then the girl that I was talking to realized what had happened, and then she was super upset. Like I think she started crying because she was so upset about what had happened to her, and I was just absolutely baffled. And I wasn't even talking to them about voting, I was talking to them about like other stuff because it's a Saturday night and everybody is drunk. Okay, I need to calm down. Then I wasn't going to report it because I was just so over everything that was happening. I said, you know what, it's fine, like we're still going to pull through. But then I start getting like loads of texts, like I must have gotten like a dozen texts of people telling me that various members of her team had literally like scanned the card and voted for them, and they didn't know what was happening. One person said that she had pretended that she wanted to add herself on Snapchat on someone's phone, and then instead of doing that, she scanned the card and voted for them. So wild stuff. I told them if they had a problem or they thought that something was wrong to contact the election committee, and so that's what a lot of people did. But I did not write those emails. I was not out to get anybody. I just wanted to have like a good election. So oh my god, I'm just so baffled that that happened, or the fact that you would be so insecure about winning a student government election that you feel the need to cheat and take advantage of intoxicated people. Okay, it was literally outright cheating, and so many people on her team did the exact same thing. So we were convinced that she was just going to get eliminated because we were told several times that everything that our team members do reflect directly on us. And I had heard several times that it wasn't only members of her team, it was her herself that was doing this stuff. And I had literally seen her walking around the frats and like letting her members in and then like going around, and it was like I was witnessing a completely different person. Like before we had said hi to each other, completely ignored that I was there. Typical mean girl behavior. And I just, oh my god, I couldn't believe it. But you know what, I was like, you know what, she's literally taking herself down. She is going to get eliminated. Sunday morning, me and my team were out, we're getting people to vote. Chapters, like Greek chapters, are telling their chapters to vote. Everyone's getting out there and grinding to get people to vote. I get a phone call from the election committee and my advisor, and it's a group phone call with the committee, the advisor, me, and the girl that I'm running again. And basically they told us that they are resetting the vote, they're invalidating all the votes, and restarting the election at midnight. Oh my gosh, I remember I was outside and she was literally like across, we have like a pond thing at our school, she was across the pond, and like we were all with our teams and everyone was freaking out, and I was just so pissed because me and my team had done absolutely nothing wrong. Like most of my team members were probably sleeping when voting started, and so all of our hard work from going to bed early and getting up and getting people to vote were completely gone. Like we were being punished for something that had nothing to do with us. But they thought that this would be the fairest way to make sure that the election was fair. So even though her and her entire team cheated, we were ultimately the ones that got punished. I believe, and I didn't even think about this until other people had told me, but I believe that the votes at that current time were actually in our favor, so that's why they decided to reset the vote. But I don't think they should have done that. They said that they were doing an investigation specifically on her vice president because that's who the majority of the complaints were going to, but they didn't halt anything. Everybody was just allowed to go about their business except for the VP, who had to be disaffiliated with her campaign until the investigation was complete. So even though the committee and the advisor thought that they were being fair, I thought it was absolutely ridiculous because we had done nothing wrong. And then they also told me that I was not allowed to tell anybody why they had reset the vote, because that would be slander and then I would get removed from the election. So they were silencing me and telling me it was slander, although I am a highly achieving journalism student and I'm not an idiot, and the definition of slander is spreading something that is not true, and I wasn't even allowed to say the truth because they would call it slander. Okay, so the committee did end up doing an investigation, but they only investigated the VP, even though there were numerous complaints about everybody on her team, including her, and they ultimately ended up removing her from the campaign. But they only did that a day before voting ended, and they weren't allowed to wear like their sweatshirt because it had both of their last names on it, which was a really big win for us, except for the fact that everybody on her team gave their sweatshirt to their best friend and they were walking around campus all day with their friend next to them, and that was not considered a violation. Make it make sense. So the committee obviously very biased against me from the beginning, but even they could not ignore the fact that the other team was blatantly cheating, but that was not enough to get them removed, which is ridiculous because I know that if that had happened to me, I would have gotten removed. And then they call me again on the basis of slander, saying that they've heard that I've told people that I think that the committee is being unfair. It was all hearsay. They had no proof of that, so they just called me to yell at me for something that they had no proof of, which is absolutely ridiculous. So they decided to invalidate all the votes until midnight on Monday, and I wasn't allowed to talk about it. So I go back to my dorm and somebody texts me and they were like, oh my god, have you seen Yik Yak lately? And I had been trying to stay off that app because it's just stupid, it's toxic, and if you're going to say something anonymously and not to my face, you are pathetic. I'm an idiot and I go on Yik Yak and just stare at my phone. I'm literally, my phone is on my bed and I'm just standing over my phone for like 2 hours watching my name blow up on this app. I had never been a part of it before and my name was just blowing up and it was not good. I will say most of the things that were happening on the app and most of the things that people were saying on Yik Yak were negative things towards my opponent. People were literally like, oh my god, they were grilling her and like calling her a cheater and all this stuff, and I hated that. I did not want anyone to say anything bad about anybody. That's horrible. I literally reported all of them that had her name on it because it's just ridiculous, and people were just making assumptions, but people were also saying really mean and nasty things to me and about me, and oh my god, like people were just making up lies. Somebody said that I dated their best friend and broke their heart, and I have literally never dated anyone at my school, so people were literally making up lies. Like that was kind of funny, but it's just insane to watch people make such mean and harsh judgments about things that they know absolutely nothing about. So that was really hard, and like I said, I wasn't allowed to say anything to defend myself because I would have gotten removed. So yeah, I should have never gone on that app. I've never said anything on that app, but I should have never even seen those things because honestly, that day I could not walk around campus. I felt ashamed to just be myself. Like I did not want to go around campus at all. It was so bad. Like mental health down the drain. It was really bad. Like I remember walking around campus like this, like hoping that people would not recognize me. It was that bad. But I still had to go and talk to Greek chapters that day about voting. Oh my gosh. It would be like I would be a complete mess and then go into a Greek chapter and give my whole spiel and then run away because it was so bad. No, I did end up getting a campaign violation, and it was on something stupid. I got a campaign violation based off of dorm storming. One member of my team went around, it was in her building that she lived in, on her floor. She was just knocking on doors and telling people to vote, but she wasn't telling them who to vote for. She recommended them that they voted for me based off of my values, but she wasn't like, oh, you have to vote for this person. And so the committee called me and they were being really annoying about it at first. They called me and they were like, we can't get a hold of this member of your team, but we can't tell you why we're calling them because we have to talk to them first. And I was like, okay, well, I can't help you. Anyway, so they called me and told me that I received a campaign violation because she went and did this, and they had said at our first meeting that we had that it was a violation and that we couldn't do that. And I said, well, I'm literally deaf. That's why I had you guys send me the PowerPoint. They only sent that PowerPoint to me and not the person I was running against because I'm literally deaf, and that rule was nowhere to be found in the PowerPoint, nowhere to be found in the rule book. And they were like, oh, well, it doesn't matter, we said it was a violation. And I said, well, I'm literally deaf. I honest to God, like, didn't hear it. I thought it was totally okay. Like, please don't give me a violation. And they were like, no, you have a violation. And then they had the gall to tell me that it was the exact same thing as my opponent having a violation for cheating, which is not the same thing. They would literally, it just makes me mad because I have an actual disability and people forget about that sometimes because I am really good with living with it. But I have an actual disability and I did not hear that, and they were literally punishing me off of that. Ridiculous. Also, they literally could not get me on anything else, so they had to get me on that. I'm forever bitter about that violation because I literally did not hear it. Okay, now we're finally at voting results. So I go upstairs to get the results. At this point, I'm so defeated. Like, I am in just such a bad mood at this point because I'm so over it and everyone, and I just never want to see anyone or talk to anyone again. And I remember going into my advisor's office to hear the result, and I said to her, I said, I lost, didn't I? And she was like, hold on, I have to record this first. And basically, I did lose, and I did not shed a single tear over the fact that I lost because I was just so angry. And also, I wasn't mad that I lost, I was just mad about the way that I was treated. The girl that I was running against, she only had to focus on winning her campaign and getting people to vote for her. I had to primarily leave all of that up to my team because I was too busy battling the people that were supposed to protect me through this. I was too busy battling the committee, I was too busy battling the advisor and all these people that put me through unnecessary drama. And that's what I was primarily focused on because that's why I was getting a million calls all the time, and I couldn't just focus on running the best campaign that I could. And even with that said, I genuinely think that my campaign was better and had better values and goals. Also, running for a position like this is not a light decision. It took me months to even decide that I wanted to run. It's a financial decision, it's an emotional decision, it's one that really puts your life on hold because it's all that you can be focused on. So the fact that they really just like took it away from me, it's just really hurtful. It's actually so baffling, I can't believe it. But I remember being told that I lost, and instead of crying, I spent like 45 minutes in my advisor's office just arguing with her. I was just arguing with her for 45 minutes and it was bad. I argued with her about how I was treated. I argued with her about the fact that their vice president was still allowed to run for vice president. She ended up losing because everybody knew that she cheated, but it's just ridiculous that she was even allowed to run. I remember asking my advisor why she wasn't eliminated from the race because her and her entire team had been cheating, and my advisor told me that she didn't hear anything about my opponent cheating and she wasn't going to let a student's opportunity for student leadership be taken away because of the actions of someone else, even though we were repeatedly told that everybody on our team, their actions reflect us and we will get punished and removed based off of things that they do. So I know for a fact that if roles had been reversed, I would have been removed. But because I'm not who the administration wanted, to this day I'll never understand how administration or my advisor thought it was okay that I was treated the way that I was treated. And the thing that upset me the most was not the fact that everyone would be so nasty and awful to me. It was the fact that it also affected my team, who genuinely wanted to be there to support me and my visions for the school, and the fact that they were being punished, it just did not sit right with me, and it is absolutely ridiculous. I didn't have to run for this position. I don't need a resume booster, and I have like a ton of health problems, especially ones that are triggered by stress, but I decided to do this because I wanted to help people and I wanted to make people's lives easier. But I cannot continue to fight for people and to try to make positive change at the university when I strongly feel like they were working against me. So then a couple weeks after the whole election happened, I decided to run for senior class president. That was a whole nother thing because they had told us that we weren't allowed to run with full teams, that we had to run individually. That's how it had always been done. And then suddenly the meeting happened, the eligibility meeting happened, and the person that I ran against had an entire team put together and I was just by myself. So he must have been told before, but it doesn't matter. I won that election, but that election was fine. Like, the person that I ran against texted me before the head of the election committee even told me that I had won that race to congratulate me that I had won, and we're still cool. I think that we're still cool. I have no ill will towards him and I hope he doesn't towards me. That's just an example of how it should be. I am in that role now. I remember the student body president had called my opponent right after we found out election results and was consoling him and making sure that he was okay when she had literally had not talked to me since second semester. Since the whole election has happened, I have had so many people come up to me who had supported the other candidate and did not vote for me, telling me that they thought that the way that I was treated was really screwed up and that that never should have been allowed to happen. So many people think that it was just so messed up, and it was. I just remember being so anxious all the time, and every single time my phone rang, like my heart sank and I just wanted to like go away and isolate, and it was really bad for my mental health. And I also feel like nobody really took the time to get to know me as a person and what makes me me before being so unfair and just blindly supporting the other candidate. And that really upset me too, because like, hey, I'm a person. I really thought that everything was gonna be fine because it is university student government and we don't really make real change here because everyone's just so focused on the petty stupid little drama. I feel like the people that were supposed to protect me made it even worse. But with all of that being said, I learned a lot. Some of my best friends came out of this. I brought people together who are now friends because of me, and I know that everyone will be fine. My team, so much better. The quality of everything that I put out and my team just so much better. They are all doing amazing, wonderful things at my school, and I could not be more proud of them and the way that they handled themselves through it. I would not have been able to make it through without my team supporting me, and I remember feeling like I let everyone down because I was being treated so badly. Like, I remember literally having a conversation with someone that got asked to be on the other team, being like, I'm so sorry that you're with me and not with them because you see the way that we're being treated. I honestly would do it again. I don't think that I could have done anything to be treated better because I didn't have that power to make myself get treated better, but I would do it again because I learned a lot and I'm a stronger person now, and I just feel so much more secure and confident now that I have dealt with so much BS. I believe that everything happens for a reason. I still have a great position. It actually has more perks and again, I decided not to run for the position that I have now in the first place because I wanted to focus on creating real change. But the position I have honestly will be better for time management. I can actually do theater and things that I'm interested in now, and I get to enjoy my senior year. So I believe that everything happened for a reason. Also, this is not the peak of my life like it is for so many people in that room. It's like that position is it for them. It's the peak, but this is just a blip in my life and something that I will learn from and grow from forever. I do have to work with everyone as senior class president. It's already proving to be super difficult with people ignoring my emails, being super difficult with me for no reason, being super hostile over text for no reason. And so I know that they're going to try to make my life hard this year, but I'm just honestly unaffected, not gonna let it bother me, and I just really want to make this video because it is a healing process for me. That is it. I believe I've said everything I needed to say. I don't know how long this video is going to be, but it feels like I have been talking for so long. If you made it this far, thank you so much for watching, and I promise my next video will be so happy and positive, and I will see you guys later. Bye.